Has class started?
Yes, I'm about to start right now. So, guys, welcome to week 4. So, how are you guys feeling? There's a lot of information we've been giving you guys.
I've been doing bad.
Been doing bad.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're here to try to help you out. So, ask questions and I'll try to help out, hopefully. As always, I always start with helping you guys out from last week's assignments, and if there's any questions about them. You were doing the Mix 2 and Mix 3, which was adding dynamic processing to your track, as well as also time-based effects for Mix 3.
I have a question, sir.
Yes, go ahead, Mario.
Yeah. When you get later on to opening up that Logic Pro session,
Mm-hmm.
can you please show us how to remove a plugin? Because I know we can turn it off if we don't need it, but
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find how to way to just remove it from that track.
All
And
right.
I just thought maybe you can, let
Sure.
us know that.
No worries. Excuse me. So right now, let's say we added I don't know, a bit crusher. Sure. We added that plugin, and as you know, you could turn it off right here. But to completely remove it, all you have to do is go and select no plugin. Real simple. It gets rid of the plugin for you.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Sure.
Just trying to figure out for a while. I just gave
Mhm.
up. Look at that.
No plugin. That's all you need to do. Any other questions?
Adding the time-based effects again.
Sure. Well, let's do that. I've got quite a few of them already set up here. But let's say, all right, keys. Or here, we'll keep, yeah. Trying to grab something that doesn't have anything. So let's say for some reason you wanted to add, whatever. Okay, let's go, and I was saying keys, so the keyboard. Let's get rid of this one. And let's say we want to add a time-based effect. The time-based effect, we don't want to add it on this audio track. This is an actual physical audio track. You could tell because right here, that symbol. Over here, the ones with the yellow knobs, those are aux tracks. What we're wanting to do then is to send some of the audio from this audio track, because our time-based effects is going to be adding an effect to the original signal. We don't want to change the original signal. So all we need to do is, right here you see send. So we're going to create a send. Come over to the bus. I select a bus that isn't being used. Let's go to bus number 9, for instance. As soon as I do that, it creates bus number 9, and over here, aux number 7 was created. At that point, I could name it whatever I want. The feed is basically, you could see send number 2. So it's a second send in line. It's sending over to bus 9, and that's feeding aux 7. So just like any other one of these, you'll notice they're turned up. I need to bring up the level.
Last 2 seasons, but he's not the best player in this series. It's Donovan Mitchell, who continues to shine in the postseason. Just
mute that mic. All right. So like I was saying, you turn up the aux, or I should say the send, feeding the aux. So now I'll solo those keys, for instance. And you can see right over here, the level is being fed. You'll see if I bring it down, the feed isn't feeding it anymore, right? So you have to have it turned up, number 1. So what that gives me is now I have the original signal here, and I have a copy of the original signal here. And this is where I add that time-based effect. So let's say you wanted to do, well, let's add just simple reverb, I guess. So I'm adding the chroma reverb. So now when I hit play, you will hear the original sound and of course the one on aux 7, which now is changed by adding the reverb. And you can see I could bring up the reverb or bring it down, but I still hear the original sound unchanged. So it gives me a lot more detailed capability. I can add and change the amount of the effect that the blend between the original sound and the effect. You could really start controlling it. If I were to add it over here, it would have changed it completely, and I would not been able to control the way I am now, as far as the blending between the effect and the original sound. Does that help explain it for you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Any other?
I have a question.
Yes, Deborah.
I don't know what happened anyway. When I was doing this, I ended up having another track, an auxiliary track, and when I tried to delete it, it ended up deleting the main. Like, say for instance, if it was on keys, it ended up deleting the keys and not that. What did I do wrong, or what do I need to do so that I can get rid of that particular track and not the main track? You know what I mean?
Well, usually you have it. Whatever you have selected is what you're doing. Like, for instance,
Right.
I can come over here,
And
or
I only had that selected.
and then you can,
Right.
delete and so forth. You have your options over here. Create. You can do all these different things here.
Right.
So what you were trying to do? Just delete the track.
Yeah, and I highlighted just that track, and every time I said that, it says regions are in this track, but it wasn't. I hadn't put anything on it yet.
Well, notice I selected it. All I did was I hit
Right.
the delete key on my keyboard, and it's going to ask you the selected auxiliary channel or channels
Right.
receive signal from an active bus. So in other words, it's telling me, hey, you've got this connected here, so if you do this, you're going to disconnect that. Well, in this case, yeah, I want to go ahead and kill it anyways. So this is going nowhere now. At that point, I could just
Right.
come over here and, no send, shut that off.
Right, but for some reason, every time I did that, it deleted the main track and not that one. I don't know.
The only thing I
I
can think
don't
of
know.
is if you had that main track selected, that may have been the case.
Yeah, I thought that too. So I went back and just highlighted the one that I wanted to get rid of. So I'm not sure. I didn't hit the delete button. I hit the I went over to I right clicked it and went to that delete, and that's when it came up.
All right, let's make we'll make another track real quick. Bus number 10 this time. So here's the aux. We select that aux, and you're saying you right clicked it. Okay, so
Yes.
control click. Where did you grab delete from here?
It came up, like when you sometimes right click it, it'll say like copy paste. It came up like that, and then at the bottom towards it said delete.
Were you on? Well, no, you would have had to been on here because you have to tell the aux tracks to show up over here. Yeah, when I do right click, this is all I get. You should have done the same thing.
I see. I can see that. I'll just have to try it again. I'm okay now, but I don't remember what I did now, but I just was wondering, like, for future, if that ever came up again, what I needed to do.
Yeah, normally you just go over, to the edit and you start,
Right.
delete's right there, or you could hit the delete key, like I was saying.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna delete anyways, even though I know I connected it here, and come back. Hit no send. That's the only way I know of completely getting rid of that thing you just created.
Right. Okay.
All right. Well, if you keep having problems with it, Deborah, just contact me and we'll try to figure out what's up.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. Is there any other questions on the mix 2 or 3? Don't really see any other questions. All right. So, did you guys have a lot of fun? Did you get to learn a lot from it, as far as how to use these tools to really emphasize a song or your mix? Hopefully, you got to see how important to use the compressors and EQ. You could really change up the mix completely. And depending on what you're thinking about when you're mixing this, you could actually give it completely different styles, even though it's the exact same song. And you don't even edit the tracks themselves. You could just mix it differently by using the EQ, the compressor, and gates and so forth. In fact, I did that just to show you guys. For instance, let me see, which one is this one? Okay. This is the song mixed, thinking, okay, well, it sounds like a reggae song, so let's mix it like a reggae song.
Yeah.
Every day, oh yeah, wanna thanks and praise Him, and I stay flying away, oh yeah.
Now you can see that's basically like reggae style, and but I want to show you the exact same song, looking at it as a different style. There's nothing wrong with mixing it as a different style. So you could hear that same song done more like dance style. And then lastly, I mixed it like if it was a rock and roll song.
Power in my soul, this power worth much more than gold. Yes, I do. Every day, oh yeah. Wanna thanks and praise gotta give, and I stay flying away, oh yeah.
As you guys could hear, it's the exact same song, all of them. All it's different is you just think differently while you're mixing it. With the reggae one, most reggae songs are usually very bass heavy, and the drums are very subdued. They just kind of create a rhythm, and you have, of course, the vocals. The guitar also is just very plucky. But when you're doing rock and roll, the drums.
My kids gonna miss me playing this song.
With rock and roll, you're gonna have a lot more drums. Of course, the guitars are gonna be crunchy. It's gonna be basically completely different feel to it. And then last one, the dance mix, you heard how it's had a lot of low end for the drums, but not so much emphasis on the drums. Just that drop created a drop sound. You heard the vocals. Even if you would have noticed, if you listen closely, the vocals even sounded like I added females to the chorus. And I'll show you guys that little trick a little later once we finish explaining the radio play. I'll show you all the different tricks that I did on all these different mixes. All right, guys. So let's not save right now. Any questions about all that? And then if not, let's go ahead and jump into radio play. All right, no questions here. Okay. Let me go ahead and go into radio play then. All right, so as you guys see, week 4 is here, and it's radio play time. Right now, it's due in 2 days, 5 hours, and 44 minutes radio play. Now, one thing I want to point out is once you finish radio play, you're going to have to submit, of course, the radio play MP3 and the session. But I want you to look at radio play part 2, because radio play part 2, you're going to need the MP3 from radio play. All you need to do is upload it, put it on the discussion. I want you to do it on that same day when you go ahead and upload the your radio play assignment, only because then that gives everybody time to go listen to your radio play assignment. This one is due the next day, Friday, instead of Thursday. But if you post it on Thursday or Wednesday, whenever you finish this assignment, that'll give that much more time for people to go listen to it, because with the radio play part 2 is you get to listen to your colleagues' mixes on their radio play assignment and give feedback. You're going to give some constructive criticism. This is, in fact, let me go into that one, show you, so that way you know. You go and listen to your colleagues' different radio plays and pick 2 of them. At least 2. You could go even more, and respond to them. Give them some constructive criticism on their mix. Hey, I love what you did. I noticed you had a lot of reverb on this. Maybe give some feedback. Maybe they didn't have any reverb and everything sounded very dry, and give them the feedback that if they would have possibly used a time-based effect like reverb, it would have added that much more life to their spot, their radio play. All right, try to make it constructive criticism. We don't want to just give negative feedback. It's more about just kind of helping each other, and you get to learn from each other also. Who knows, maybe ask, hey, how did you do this? I loved how you created the sound of the person walking through the snow. Did you actually go and record someone doing that, or did you create it via other means? So that's what I mean by this one. It's you need to have that radio play posted, so that way people could go, and then by Friday you have up to Friday that evening to go ahead and respond to people, because you're going to need to give at least a response or a feedback to at least 2 other students. So that one's pretty simple. Definitely do that one, because hey, it's 10% of your grade, and all you need it's real simple. Just post your radio play, your final project, and then have some criticism towards some of the other projects out there. Now, let's go ahead and talk about radio play, the assignment itself. As I pointed out last week, I wanted you guys to kind of start thinking about it. The radio play assignment is where you're going to create either a radio advertisement, recreate a favorite scene from a movie using processing and Foley. We want you to just kind of create even an old radio play. What I mean by that is, if you would have went to the website, you could see where way back before we had TVs that were so common around every single household. We used to have to sit around the radio, and they would actually have shows that were on the radio. Now, if it's just 2 people talking without any sound effects, it's kind of really hard to tell the story. Sound effects add so much to any story. Same thing with movies. If we never heard any of the other sounds besides just people speaking, then a lot of the movie wouldn't make sense. Someone's standing there, and another person, they shoot to the next person, and then that person hits the floor. What happened? But if you had the gunshot there, that one person just shot the other person. See what I mean? Those sound effects make a difference. So this whole radio play assignment is about going in and using all the tools that you've learned throughout the month, and now taking advantage of them and having a lot of fun and just create any kind of radio play thing, whether it's a radio advertisement, like I said, the radio play also, and of course you could even recreate your favorite scene from any movie. So you're going to be creating all the Foley, you're going to be doing the vocals and recording all of that and mixing it down using the tools that you have learned. The simple rules, well, it has to be 60 seconds minimum. In other words, only 1 minute, that's the minimum. Above that, hey, have fun with it. You have to have, you're going to bounce that down to an MP3. You have to have at least 8 separate recordings. Okay, so that's 8 different times you're going to go out and record different things. You must have created your own sound effects, 6 or more. So as you guys can see, 6 of those 8 are going to be sound effects. And then the other thing you have to do is you have to record at least 2 vocal tracks. So that's pretty easy. Usually in your scene or in any radio play, you're going to have 2 people talking. So we want to have it where you have each person being recorded on different tracks. Alright, so you must have at least 2 vocal tracks and 6 sound effects recorded with a microphone. So we're emphasizing we want you to go and record this stuff. Don't just grab sound effects from a sound effects library or something like that. We really want you to go out and record. This is what this class is about. We want to see that you're getting good levels, that you know how to use your microphones and all this. This is all what you've learned on the first week, which was that describe your acoustic environment. You learned how to set up your microphone. You learned how to set up your levels and so forth. We gave you feedback on that. You learned how each room affects the vocal, so take that into consideration. You know, if you want a vocal where you could add lots of reverb to make it, you know, really huge space, add the reverb. You know how to do time-based effects. If you record with your microphone and you just happen to be in a very, very huge space and it gets a lot of reverb, but you don't want it for your radio play spot, then that's where you have already learned about acoustics. You don't want to record in those type of places. You want to record a nice dry vocal that you could really control. You could download that how to make the vocal reverb killer box, and I point out that it's free. You could literally build this thing. Just go to Walmart and build one of these so that if you need to record nice dry vocals, you can. With that thing, you could literally record anywhere you want, and it'll remove all those first reflections that come into the microphone that normally happen in a room. Let me see. There's a question about microphones for sound effects. Microphone used for the sound effects. You could use the microphone that we gave you that came in your the launch box, or if you have your own microphone, you're more than welcome to use that. You can also, I know I was probably going to get this question, is you could also use that H5. If you received the H5 recorder, not everybody got that. Depends on which course you're taking. But the H5 recorder is okay to go out and use. That's great for remote recording. So if you wanted to go record, let's say an engine start, you know, you could take that thing out, get a stereo recording of your car starting up. So you're welcome to use the H5 recorder. You could use your microphone. You could use any microphone. It's mainly about going out and setting up levels and getting these recordings. You'll notice we gave you 2 videos too. A good idea would be to go ahead and watch these short little videos. These are just videos I pulled off of, or they're on YouTube, that show how Foley, and you'd be amazed how many movies the sound effects that you hear sometimes aren't what you think they are. You could create sounds on your own using completely different things, and it just you know, being creative with your tools, in other words EQ, compression, and so forth. you could really create some very realistic sounds. And that's how a lot of movies are done. So these two things are just there to inspire you guys, give you some ideas. I'm going to also show you some ideas to be able to create different things. What we're going to have you do is, of course, you'll be using your interface. You'll be using Logic to do this project. You're going to create a new project, create 8 audio tracks. All right, in fact, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and open up Logic. New. As you guys can see, audio. And I'll start off with, actually, I'll give myself 10 tracks because I'm probably going to run into doing some stuff. Now, everything's called audio. You'll notice audio 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember to name these things as you record. Only because then your audio tracks themselves, the audio files, will have that same name that you named it. And that's going to make things a lot easier for you to find audio files if you needed to. For now, I'll go ahead and just put Vox 1, Vox 2, and we'll start naming these as we physically record. Bring this a little closer. We want you to, after you recorded, of course, we're going to use all the different tools that you know how to use. We want you to EQ stuff. We want you to compress stuff. We want to use left and right panning. So we want you to actually pan stuff, give it a nice stereo field. You can use a limiter also at the end. It's all about using your tools. When you record, remember to have your levels. As far as your input levels, go between that -18 and -6. The same thing that we did with the describe your acoustic environment. That'll give you good recording levels for you to be able to work off of. It helps, for instance, if you needed to use your gate, it will be able to give you enough dynamic range that your gates will respond really well as compressors will also respond very well because you have enough signal there to be able to work with. All right, real quick, just checking to see. Can you use effects, change our voice on one? Yes, you can use effects to change your voice. Like, for instance, if you want to just pitch it up or down, you're more than welcome to. So you're just going to record the vocal. And here, real quick, I can show you. Let me just fold these guys up. All right. So if I wanted to change pitch, I can use the vocal transformer or the pitch shifter, for instance, and just pitch it up or down. So I can pitch the vocal way down, for instance, to make it sound a lot deeper, or the opposite, just pitch it way up and make it sound a lot more like chipmunks if I want to. So yes, you are welcome to change that, and those would be dynamic effects. We don't want to put them as time-based because then you get both the original regular vocal along with the pitched up or pitched down vocal. We normally don't want to do that. If we're wanting to change it, we want to physically put it right on the audio track. We're using it as a dynamic effect at that point. Let's see. Can we use vocals as sound effects? Yes. For instance, I've had students where they wanted to do a gunshot. Well, they don't have a gunshot capabilities. They don't. You could either take 2 shoes and slap them together and record that. That gives you kind of a hit, or you could EQ it to make it sound kind of like a gunshot. But there's nothing wrong with you just going bang or pew, whatever you wish vocally, and just EQ and compress that to make it sound to what you want to try to do. So using vocals as sound effects, no worries, you could do that. It's all about being creative, have fun with it. It doesn't matter. We're not going to sit here and tell you, well, your commercial sounded great except for this the gunshot that sounded like someone just going bang. We're not going to say anything like that. It's more about the recording, getting the levels, and setting your stuff up correctly. All right, so let's come back over here. Make sure I didn't miss any questions. Can you quickly explain the time-based effects in vocals? Sure, I'm going to actually show that. Basically, let me come over here. Put the mixer up. If we want to do a time-based effect, for instance, a reverb, we'd have to set this up as a send, because we don't want to change the vocal. If we wanted to change the original sound of the vocal, we want to put the effects here, kind of like we were just saying with the pitch shifter. But if I want to just add a time-based effect, there's where I don't want to change the vocal. I just want to add to the vocal. I'd come over here, set up a bus. That, as you guys can see, it opened up a new track. It should be called Aux 1. Yep. And here is where I would actually add the time-based effects. So let's say, for instance, I want a reverb, that chroma reverb. So now, as this vocal plays, and I have this turned up, some of the feed would actually come into this aux 1, which is the reverb itself. That's how we do time-based effects on the vocals. If I wanted to add that same one on the second vocal, I just go and use the exact same bus. Set up a level for that one, and I can independently this way have the same reverb, but each person could be, you know, one person's closer to me, so it has less reverb. The other person's farther away from me. I add more reverb to them. You can really adjust stuff very finitely by doing it this way, time-based effect wise. All right, back to here. So you could read here about adding a limiter at the end of the whole thing. Afterwards, you're going to bounce it down. We want to make sure you bounce it down at the highest setting. Okay, so we're gonna go MP3 at 320 kilobytes per second. If you guys remember from the first week, you did that data compression assignment. Something as simple as like, remember that mix that we were just doing? Here's the low quality data. There we go. Okay, so that same song, if we data compress it at the highest quality, we get this type of sound.
There's no place I'd rather be in the midst of His majesty. Feel the power.
But if we compress it at the lowest quality, imagine sending this to the client versus that first one we just heard.
There's no place I'd rather be in the midst of His majesty. Feel the power in my soul.
So as you guys already got to find out, you see how much of a huge difference. So even though I spent hours maybe mixing that song down, we definitely don't want to use the lowest quality just because it would basically ruin it for us. We want to send the best quality. So think of it as like we are sending this copy to the radio station. This is what they're going to play. You want to give them a really good quality clip, so that way they will play it and it goes out to the audience and everybody gets to hear your great work, versus that data compressed one that, yeah, sure, it's very tiny in size, file size, but sounds nothing like what you spent all that time mixing. All right, so you'll be uploading it at the highest quality. Upload that MP3 and your Logic session file. So in other words, the session file, and remember, this session file I don't have the audio files for, so definitely include the audio files in this one. We want to be able to download this thing, and I can hit play on the sequencer and it'll have all the stuff that you've recorded and basically added time-based effects and dynamic effects to. So in other words, your whole mix. That's what we need to do for this assignment. Here's a little video as far as submitting your session, just in case. And also, if you guys will notice, I've given you examples of other students' work. This is some of the stuff that has been turned in the past year, for instance. Great little spots, a lot of fun. You'll notice most of them are comedy. Most students seem to pick comedy, so that way, you know, it makes it even more fun. And I've even seen people put together PSAs, you know, public service announcements. I've seen people put together, you know, even commercials for their own businesses. As long as it fits the criteria, which is what we're asking for, of having, let's come back over here, of having, where is it? 2 vocal tracks and 6 sound effects tracks recorded, you know, with a microphone by you, it's perfectly fine. All right, now, I see a couple of questions as far as the limiting. How do we add a limiter? Let me show you that real quick. Let's say everything is mixed already. You don't want to add a limiter until you've completely finished your mix and you're done and you're happy with it. Limiting will actually help by making sure that you don't clip and you can bring up the whole loudness of it. Limiting is usually more of a mastering type effect that you can add, and you would do this much later, but we tell you, hey, why not? You're learning how to use all these devices. The limiter you would always add on the stereo out. So everything's mixed, everything comes out through the stereo mix or the stereo out. There is where we're going to put the limiter. So I'd come over here, come to dynamics, limiter, stereo, and you set it up so that way the output will, for instance, I like to bring it back to like -1, -2 dB, sometimes -3 dB. What this does is it makes sure, you know, your audio, once I have audio here, I'll be able to play it. It shows you the input. You can actually have it where it's loud, but the limiter basically is almost like a brick wall. In fact, they call them brick wall limiters sometimes, where it will not allow the audio to go above that level. It stops it. It compresses the whole mix down if need be. So it kind of works like a compressor, but this one is a compressor that will not allow any level above a certain spot. You designate it. You always want to make it, you know, you'll notice that it does go to +1, but you always want to make it probably below the 0 point. Because if you go to +1, there's very good chances that some devices will compress, or I'm sorry, they will distort the signal with digital. So always be careful with the limiter. Just make sure it doesn't go into the red whatsoever, because depending on which devices, and what I mean by that is, for instance, if you grab this MP3 that you've limited, you've smashed it, made it really loud, and you put it on a little tiny cheap MP3 player, chances are it's probably going to play back distorted and not sound very good at all. So mastering engineers have to think about this, and they know how to set this stuff up so that way practically any device out there will be able to handle it and it still plays plenty loud. But that's how you use the limiter. You're going to be adding it on the stereo out, and you always do it afterwards. Quite often I'll do the whole mix, then I can turn on my limiter, tweak the limiter. I could even turn it off again and listen again and see what the differences are, see if I'm actually helping it or if it doesn't make a difference, and then at that point I decide whether I need the limiter or not. But now you guys know how to use the limiter. Alright, I told you about the examples. Go play some of these. Some of them are great, a lot of fun to listen to. The grading rubric, here's where you get to see everything that we are checking for on this, your final project. Remember, this is your final project. This one's going to be worth quite a bit. In fact, if I remember, it's 20 points, or I'm sorry, 20% of your grade. It's got a 20% weight. So this is where you really get to show off, and this is your final, you might say, for this class. You'll notice we're checking to make sure of 2 recorded vocals, okay? 6 recorded sound effects tracks. So in other words, you have to have 6 different sound effects that we see that you have gone out and recorded 6 different sounds. I don't want to see 6 tracks of the exact same sound, for instance. I've seen some people turn that in. You want to use 6 tracks that are all kind of different sounds. And it's pretty simple to do. Honestly, some people go 15 tracks sometimes of different sounds. It all depends on how much realism you want in your spot and so forth. We want you to use compression. Okay, so, and not just like one compressor on one vocal and then that's it. Hey, I did compression. We want you to use compression throughout, all the different tracks. It really helps out a lot. Use your compressor on the vocals. Use your compressor on some of the sound effects too. It'll actually improve how sound effects sound, and I'll show you when I create fire, for instance, right here, just through the microphone, and we create walking through the snow. Next thing, EQs used on the tracks. So we want to make sure that you've EQ'd tracks, especially with the sound effects stuff. You'll see how useful the EQ is. You could really change how sound sounds through the EQ. We want you to use at least 2 time-based effects, and those time-based effects have to be routed correctly, of course. So used via the aux tracks. That's what I was just showing you guys, how we set up the bus. It feeds one of the auxes, which you put the time-based effect on that track. The sends, they need to be turned up. I don't want to see everything set up and that, the effects set up and everything, and then, hey, it's not even sending to that effect. So we want to make sure that you guys understand how all this is routing and how the routing works, that you need to turn up that bus or the send to the bus for that aux to be able to get any signal whatsoever. All right, so they need to be turned up so that they're audible. Proper gain staging. That goes back to the recording. We want to make sure that you understood and got how to record anything from the vocals to the sound effects. We want to have adequate signal. Again, using that minus 18 to minus 6 dB area, and no clipping. We don't want to start distorting the sound. We want to see that you use panning. Panning helps so much. You got to see on your own mixes with mix 1 and 2 and 3 how the panning of the different drums and everything really spaced things out and gave it more life. Same thing with this commercial or radio spot or whatever. It could be something as simple as like between the 2 different people speaking. You could have one that's slightly panned to the right and the other one's panned to the left, so it really sounds like you're standing right in front of the 2 people and they're talking, and one's to the left of you, the other one's to the right of you. Custom parameters on the plugins and EQs. In other words, we don't want you to use any presets of any kind. In Logic, yes, there are presets, but honestly, I never use those presets because they were just kind of set up. And depending on what you're recording, you really need to just EQ the thing to what you want to go for. If you try to just use an EQ, you don't know if it's going to fit that track that you just recorded. If it says, bass EQ, well, there must be 10,000 different bass sounds out there. Which one did they use to EQ to make it sound better? If you just throw that EQ on any bass, it most likely will not sound the way you want it. So, also, that's part of this class. You've learned how to turn those parameters. You know what you're doing. So definitely show us that you're using, your skills. So no presets, in other words. Next thing we're going to have you guys do is short little blurb is describing how each sound effects were created. It doesn't have to be very long. It could be, for when I picked up the sound effect of the keys being picked off the table and jingled, I actually grabbed some keys, recorded myself picking up off the table the keys and then jingling them like if I was walking with the keys in my hand. That's simple. All you have to do is just kind of describe how you recorded each one of these sounds. Next thing, bounce the mix and that 320 kilobytes per second. This is like I was just showing you, how much of a difference it really makes. So make sure that that high quality version of the MP3 is what you use to present this project. Next, you'll see submitted completed Logic session, of course named with your last name, your first name, and then RPR radio play. And make sure it's uploaded also. You'll notice here just clipping on any channels, so no clipping. You don't want to lose 10 points. And of course, don't be late on the project. You've got plenty of time now to go ahead and finish up that project. Alright, so that's basically it. That's all you need to do for this final thing. We give you a little bit more info if you'd like to check out some more stuff on lynda.com. The Logic Pro Essential Training, Mixing and Mastering. You'll be able to check this out to give you a little bit more information. Also, there's a thing there about recording automation in real time and giving your mix life or movement through automation. So I've shown you a little bit about automation and how to do it, but here's some more info on it, explaining how in Logic you could automate stuff. Could be useful for your, this project. All right, so let's go ahead and play around with this a little bit. I've explained it all. You guys know what you need to turn in, but now I'm going to show you some tricks for things that you could actually do. As you guys can see, the whole time I've been talking, there's levels coming in here. In fact, probably too much. For recording level, we want to be like between here and there. So as you can see, I'm hitting that -6 point. And every once in a while, I might go over a little bit, but that's pretty good recording levels. So that way I actually have enough dynamic range in my recording that nothing could nothing like the compressors or gates will have a hard time. They can actually use this dynamic range and you use it to your advantage. This also separates the noise floor. I'm quiet for a second here. You guys can see right around there that -40 signal. That's just the fan, the room noise, ambience, all this stuff. So that's my noise floor. There's enough dynamic range between my vocal and that noise floor so that when I mix this, I'm probably gonna have to bring down the vocals, for instance, or even sound effects, and I will never have to boost it to the point where I actually get noise floor being brought up and end up with a noisy mix. Real quick, I see a question as far as the effects description where to be noted. You could put that right directly in the feedback section if you wish. It's probably the simplest place to put it. Just put it right into your feedback. Tell me, describe to me how you did each sound effect. All right, so back to this. Now, let's show you how you could easily, I'm going to go to another track, first of all. Track number 3. All right, I'm going to name it, and we're going to call this, because I'm going to show you how to create simple, fire. I'll call this fire bass, because this is going to be the start. To create fire, very convincing fire sound, you want to actually have a couple different layers. Now, believe it or not, I'm not going to sit here and light a fire and stick my microphone near the fire. Who knows, I might catch the microphone and start melting some of the plastics around the microphone. B, I don't want to set a fire inside my house while I'm recording. And I just want that fire sound, so it would be kind of hard to start a fire in a studio to record a fire. And to be honest with you, burning down the house. Don't want to burn down the house. To be honest with you, if you go out and record fire, honestly, it's not that exciting. For the movies and everything, we actually emphasize a lot of sound effects to really bring it home for us. And a lot of things that we hear in movies, in real life, if we heard the actual sound of these things, it'd be kind of boring. Prime example is when someone breaks a bone, it does not go crunch the way, and crack the way we hear in a lot of movies. They actually use celery to give that sound. But when we see this on the screen and we, see something happening and we hear crack, ooh, it kind of makes us cringe because we think about how much pain must be going through or so forth if someone were to break a bone that way. But if a person really broke a bone, we wouldn't probably even hear it because it's going to happen underneath our flesh and so forth. Oh, let's go ahead and grab this fire base. Let's start off. And the way I'm going to do fire base, believe it or not, is I'm going to grab one of these bags, get them at Walmart or wherever you buy something. And you can actually crinkle it and start recording it. And you'll see how you can create a base. Here, I'm going to go ahead and first make sure your levels. All right. That's a decent level. Okay, so put that track into record. Alright, I think I got enough. Let me see. We're going to play that back. Okay, I got good levels at the beginning and later it kind of died down. I'm not sure why. Probably just pulled it away too much from the microphone. But here, I'll show you. We're going to go ahead and use that. I'm going to take away, or no, this would be perfect to show you how compression will even that out. Okay, so that's my fire bass sound. First of all, notice when I play it back, there's a lot of high frequencies in there. I can actually come over here, use a shelving EQ, for instance, and I would just, I don't want to take out the high frequencies, but I want to just cut them down a little bit. So right there, you saw how I just kind of muffled that high frequency off a little bit. So there's my bass. Now I notice also that, hey, my levels aren't, exactly even. They kind of go louder, softer, and so forth. Plus I want to bring out some of those nuances of the actual crinkling of the bag. So I'm going to grab a compressor. And let's compress that signal now. Let's compress it pretty hard. Alright, so there I've just compressed it, made it a little bit more even. Now, I'm going to go ahead and come over to another track, and we'll start blending all this stuff soon, but let's go ahead and call this Fire Pops. Now, if you've ever heard like a fireplace, or, campfire even, a lot of times you'll get these random little pops as the wood, basically the moisture in the wood expands and pops out of the actual, piece of wood itself. So we get this crackling type sound. And to get that sound, I'm going to grab some bubble wrap. That actually works pretty good. Plus it gives me also the same crinkling effect. So layering the crinkling effect as well as also some pops. So let's go back and... just for now, I'm not going to play that one. I want to show you is kind of like how they work all together next. And let's go ahead and record some pops. Oh, I guess I need to put record ready. Here we go. Alright, there were some pops there. I probably have a little bit too many on some of those recordings. Let's listen back real quick. Yeah, like that first one, those 3 pops, that just doesn't sound natural. So at this point, you could start, editing out and even creating, which ones you like the best, copying them and moving them around. That one was horrible. Let's see what actually the last ones sound like. That one's definitely not usable. So let's say we got these, we like these. You could literally just move them around. I can also, copy it, and I'm gonna give myself some more of those first ones. You could place on top of. So in other words, I'm randomly just putting pops, fire pops throughout. Let's grab that track. I'll put it out of record. Again, soloed. Level sounds a little bit loud, so of course let's bring that down. See that one? It sounded almost like a machine gun. So I think I'm gonna slide that guy over slightly. All right. Let's do the same type of thing. Well, I want those pops to be a little bit more subdued. I don't want them to be so bright. What do? We can grab an EQ again. Here this time, let's say I want to really filter out some of that stuff. So I'm going to use the low pass filter. And I'm also going to use a high pass filter because I'm hearing too much stuff happening in the low end that I may not want. There we go. So right there, now let's combine those two. And we're going to have to use our faders to mix them. There we go. Bring them both down. Let's go ahead and loop that. Start off with the fire bass. All right, and there's the basis of our fire, and it's sounding okay, but let's add some realism to it. Why don't we come over here and actually we already set up a reverb, so let's go ahead and use that same reverb. So bus 1, that's feeding our chroma. For now, I'm going to go ahead and mute these vocals as far as the feeds, although we don't have anything going there. I'm noticing that this is the chroma reverb monos. Let's make it stereo, so it really gives us a little bit more wider spread one. So you guys can see, you could literally start making this raging fire that's not really there. Just through simple things like bubble wrap and plastic bags. The other thing you could do with plastic bags or even the bubble wrap, if I wanted to record footsteps in the snow, for instance, same thing with like sounding almost like if it's someone walking through leaves, same type of thing. So I can actually record real simply. Bring it back. take this loop off for now. Alright. Let me take my fire sound out and just play the footsteps. So you guys can see, it sounds almost like someone's walking through snow. Again, I'm listening to that and going, you know, it sounds like it needs a little EQing. And I'm doing these EQs super fast just to show you guys, but in general, you get the concept that you can sit here and tweak it. It's just perfect. But right off the top of my head, I can definitely hear I don't need that much high end on that footsteps. Same thing with low end. I think I have too much. And you notice there's a lot of sound happening too behind it. So maybe this one I need to, besides EQing it, is let's gate this guy. That way I don't get any other background noise except for the actual, you might say the footsteps itself. So let's set this up and let's gate it and see what happens. First of all, I'm going to make it so the threshold's completely. Shorten everything just so I really have full control. And I'm going to start bringing back the threshold. I must have passed it already. Are we playing? There we go. Okay, so they're a little too quick, so let's see. Hold them open a little bit. Add some release time. Bring it back again. Here we go. What's happening? Oh, I'm not even hit play. Here we go. So right there you guys can see how now I can make it so that it's only the footsteps are coming through with the gate. Might want to come back and revisit the EQ and say, okay, well, I need to filter out more high-end frequencies. Let's just loop this thing so I know it's playing. Here we go. I notice it's probably still too short. So remember, you have the release. Now, I just randomly kind of did those acting like someone's actually walking. If you edit them out and move them closer, of course you could make it to where it sounds almost like they're running versus just walking. Or you could make them, you know, more evenly dispersed. If you're watching video and you're doing sound effects, you could actually even lock them in to you watch where every footstep comes down to the floor and you trigger that sound there. You place it in time so it matches the video. So now when we visually would see it, you'd actually see the person's foot coming down, squishing down the snow, and you're hearing that sound effect that you just created. If you're watching it and you hear this, you are 100% convinced that that's the sound of snow. This is where the the movie magic basically starts happening. You can create sound effects and make them fit to the video. You could literally have fun with it too if you wanted to. There's nothing stopping you from, hey, they're walking on rubber duckies. Squeak, squeak, every single time that they step on the snow. So you can really have fun with it. Enjoy what you guys are going to get to do. Think of other stuff out there. There are so many different types of sound effects. Oh, yes. One neat trick I usually show because everybody seems to really like this one is I saw this in a Disney thing where they were showing how to create like bears and cougars and different growls from different animals. And he had it. It was a glass one, but I decided to improvise. I grabbed one of these 2-liter bottles, soda bottles, and if you cut off the bottom end of it and kind of growl into it, it will take and amplify certain frequencies because you start getting some standing waves within the bottle, and then the output through the neck of the bottle gives you a whole different sound. It's kind of neat. And I'm going to show you guys, we're going to record what sounds like a, I don't know, tiger or a cougar. So let's call it tiger. So there's going to be a random tiger that we're going to run into while we're walking out in the snow while the fire is going on nearby, and we could even make it rain too with the using the bubble wrap, give it rain sound. So rainy, snow, fire, and tiger all in one radio play assignment. Okay, put this guy into record. Let me mute all the other ones. Okay, done. Here we go. Let's see how that sounded. Rewind. Pretty good. I seem to have a lot of noise, and I think it's coming from the different things. I have a lot of sounds. Somebody's doing something next door, which is making a lot of noise. Apparently, I'm getting more noise than normal. So let's go ahead and see. Let's take that tiger sound. First thing, let's gate. So that way and EQ also. I'm going to go ahead and gate it first, just so we get rid of some of that background noise. So you guys can see setting it up so I have some sort of click at the end. I'll get rid of that by editing, but I'm getting it to where at least it only opens the gate basically when the snarls are happening. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that clip at the end so we don't get that last sound. So that got rid of some of the noise. The next thing I know we'd probably want is some EQ. But I also am thinking, why don't we make this growl a little deeper? So someone was asking if we could use our vocals and change our vocals, and I showed you how to do it with the pitch. So let's show you that. I'm going to grab a pitch shifter, put it right on that. In fact, I'm going to put the pitch shifter before the EQ. Yep, I have an EQ here. Where? There it is. Okay. You guys could hear I brought it down a few semitones there. Even a few cents. I guess the cents doesn't matter as much. Mainly the semitones. But now I can. Let's get rid of that almost white noise sounding thing that we don't like, or at least I don't like it. Down and find a frequency there that's kind of annoying me. I'm gonna boost. I'm almost creating some sort of beast that I don't even recognize anymore. But you guys can see how you could use your tools to create a whole different sound. Yes, it sounds kind of like a demon. Or using a phantom mic. Actually, I'm using just a USB mic right now. It's one of the blue Snowball. Here, let's see if you guys can see it. You're seeing the back of it here. It's one of these guys. It's a decent little mic. So I'm not even going as elaborate as I probably should. If I really wanted to do this and it wasn't just to show you guys, I'd probably bring out my condenser mics and place them nearby and work with those microphones to get the best sound I can. So you guys can see, even rough, we can actually have a lot of fun. And just from those sound effects, we can start making up a story. Start speaking about the two guys. Let's say they're saying, so did you, talk about the weather or whatever, and then, this snow, it's everywhere. Well, hold on, let me go get some more firewood. And you hear crunch, 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 crunch. You hear the fire in the background, and then all of a sudden you hear the let's say, the tiger. All of a sudden, you start hearing it, and then one of the guys will start saying, "What was that?" You basically can create whatever story you want. All you need is 1 minute's worth minimum, and then after that, have fun with it. If you want to make it 2 minutes, great. But it's all about going out and recording all your different sound effects, right? So the fire sound effects, I did one. I did footsteps, there's another one. The tiger is another one. You could do some more vocal sound effects. You could go and record pouring a drink. You could sit there and somebody used the infamous sound of a soda can being popped open. You hear the fizzing, and then they poured it over ice, and you hear the ice cracking and everything. So they recorded that, and that was a great sound effect of them pouring soda as they were talking. They're saying, well, I'm really thirsty, I'm going to drink some soda. And you hear this, and it just brings it home where you're hearing what's going to be happening, as well as also you're physically hearing the sound effect of that happening. On the tiger, I couldn't hear that noise you got rid of. I guess it's because we are going through GoToMeeting, and it's probably, it is compressing it, data compressing it, and you're losing some of the high-end frequencies. But there was a lot of high-end frequency, for instance, information. I think the neighbors are doing something next door, and I'm getting a lot of noise just through the window and so forth. So kind of wish I had better soundproofing in this room for that type of situation. But nevertheless, see, that goes back to, understanding your acoustic environment. Right now, it's just my little office. I goof around in here. I do, sometimes mix, but I never really record so much in here. If I need to record something, I go into a much quieter and more useful spot. Or just go record at one of the studios at school, which has some wonderful recording rooms. Alright guys, let me open up the mics for you guys real quick here and ask away questions. Do you have any questions on this? Anything I missed from you guys? Let's see.
I have a question.
Yeah, I've got a question.
Whoa, one at a time. Okay.
Go ahead, Deborah.
Deborah, I think you were first. Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to know, like, if I use the, I have the recording, the H5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the H5. So how do you take that and put it on the Logic?
All right. The H5, if I remember, it has this little slot where you have a little memory card.
Oh, okay.
You can, if you have one of those card readers, you could, because you guys are using the newer Macintoshes, I think you'll have to have a card reader. Or I think also the H5 can be connected via USB, and you read the card directly while it's still inside of the H5. And it shows up almost like a hard drive. for your.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
And then then I'll export it.
Then you just
Yeah.
drag. You basically open it up. It'll open up like a hard drive. It shows up on your desktop, and then you just drag your audio files that you want.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Drag them onto your
Okay.
desktop. That way, it copies them off that internal little SD card, and
Mhm.
you'll be able to use them in your Logic session.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, so I got my question as well.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, so can I use a computer keyboard and or a dialing of a telephone as sound effects?
Yes, if you record it, like you're talking about computer keyboards to get the little crunching sound of the keys. You know, click,
Yes.
click, 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 click. Yes, that's fine. So yeah, just put your microphone right near your computer keyboard and do some clicking of keys. I've had people even use old typewriters. They found an old
That's
typewriter.
really cool, yeah.
And they recorded.
And you can,
them clicking.
even the dialing of a telephone, like the buttons, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yes, those are all sound effects, and they're things that a lot of us don't. You know, we take it for granted. If we watched a movie and they didn't bother putting in all those sound effects, we would look at scenes and go, "It just doesn't look believable. Why does this not look normal?" And I've seen a couple movies where things got away that they forgot to put in there. The Foley artists. And what I mean by that is, for instance, I've seen, I forget what movie it was. I think it was it was one of those cop type movies. And they show the two cops kind of standing there, but there's this dog that's barking in the yard. You could see his mouth moving, but I don't hear a word or a peep out of the dog. Yet I could tell physically, if I look at on the movie scene, that the dog was barking. So they added the vocals and the other things afterwards, and they didn't catch the dog in the background, because otherwise they would have added that dog also to make the scene completely 100% believable. But
That's amazing, yeah.
It's a slip up.
So I was watching your the live lecture from last month,
Yes.
and I was noticing that you answered another student's question about recording video game sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And you had said that that's not necessarily like a Foley sound effect. So I was wondering like what the difference is between like a regular Foley sound effect and what's not.
Well, the case was there is that somebody else has created a Foley sound, and it's in the sound of the video game. What he was saying, can I just use the video game sounds? Well, you're not going out and really doing the work yourself. You're just trying to record them off somebody else's or snag them from the internet. So that was the main thing there. We don't really we want you to go out and record your own sounds. Not just grab somebody else's work and say that, hey, I recorded, this car driving by. It's actually out of a video game. It was just try to go out and physically record your own sounds. We're just trying to get you guys to get out and, do some miking up, do some recording, not just snag sound effects from video games or other things.
Gotcha. Thank you, Professor.
Okay, no problem. Any other questions?
Yes, I have one more.
Yes, Deborah.
I have an event going on in about a couple of months. Can I make a spot from that event, or we're not allowed to do that?
Well, you just said it's in a couple months, right?
Mm-hmm.
A couple months will be too late for.
No. I mean, I wanted to go ahead and like make the announcement about it. I mean, I was going to use it like as a video spot, and it's like I don't know why I said it, but it is in a couple of months. But I just want to know, can I make that as a radio spot and use my music, or I cannot use my music?
You can. We just you're more than welcome to do your spot. Remember, it just is follow the guidelines. You have to have 6 sound effects and 2 vocals at least.
Okay.
Don't count the music as being a sound effect. Because let's say you have what they call a music bed all the way through your little commercial.
Right.
It's fine. You can use your music as a music bed, or if you have music that you have gotten clearance from. We always want to think about copyright whenever we're using it. Physically as an ad. Otherwise, the owner of that copyright for that song could technically come after you. We don't want that. So if you have your own music, sure, you're more than welcome. Use this radio play assignment as a way of creating a commercial for your event. There's no problem with that. I'm okay with that.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Just remember, follow the guidelines from the assignment, and anything extra, it's fine.
Okay.
Any other questions? Looks like no more questions. All right, guys. Well, you got to see what we needed to do for the radio play. Hopefully, remember, here I didn't do any panning, but let's say we want the fire to be on that side. The footsteps, we're walking on this side of the screen. The tiger is way over here. That's what we want you to do. Is just kind of audibly move the location of what you're picturing in your head visually. So the tiger and the fire and everything wouldn't be all dead center. They'd all be spread out. So we want you to use your panning. You know how to use it. Go for it. Of course, you'll be doing your levels. So make everything work. And then finally, like we were talking earlier, okay, let's say we've got this whole thing mixed. We're happy with it. You've got your 2 time-based effects. Right now I'm only showing 1. So let's see. Let's make that tiger have a delay. So bus number 2 creates a new aux. We got to make sure we've got that send turned up. And then on that new aux, I'm going to put a delay. Let's give it this echo, for instance. So that would mean every single time the tiger growls, it would also give a delay of the tiger. Let's see what that sounds like. Ooh, funky. But you guys got to see, you could have some fun with it and, enjoy the project. That's what it's all about. All you're doing is having some fun, but at the same time, you get to show us that you have learned all the different concepts that we want to make sure that you grasp for this class. And that's using compression, using EQ, using dynamics, using time-based effects through an aux. So we want to have the send turned up, feeding the aux, and then on the aux we actually add those time-based effects. So reverb, delay. Alright guys, so that's it for that assignment, and you'll be posting that, of course, both the MP3 and your Logic file. You're going to upload those two. And then in the feedback you could give me the description of how you got those sound effects.
Can we also give you the feedback on a Word doc and just add it to the completion?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
You could do it that way too. One thing definitely I want to point out is, remember, once you've completed this one, you've uploaded those things, go to your radio play part 2 and go ahead and upload just the MP3. And we usually tell you also to go ahead and, just so that the other students get an idea of what you did, take a screenshot of your mix window. Show off, how you used your skills and so forth. Okay, let me not. Well, yeah, just in case somebody asks anything, I'll go ahead and save it.
I'm up to sleep.
I'm gonna put it on the desktop. We want to save this one as a package, just so you guys knows. Hit save. So it's saving it as a project. It's just named project for me. Of course, you'd have your last name, first name, RPR, radio play. All right, now, like I said earlier, so we're done. If you need to do something, you're more than, you've got enough information here, but I'm going to go ahead and show you some other tricks. Bring up the, where is it? Rock. There it is. Okay. All right, this is giving me. There we go. This is the dance version one I did of the Reggae Junkies Stay Fly song. This one, you'll notice there's a lot more added tracks, and they are not audio tracks. Let me point that out. I'm going to show you how in a mix we can actually add to a sound via some of the methods that we've kind of come accustomed to using, like for instance gates. So I have my sub kick. That's the kick sound. So I EQ'd that a little bit. You guys can see. Here's the EQ curve that I used. All I did was I filtered out the high end frequencies of it. Gave it a little bit of a boost at one frequency, 120 hertz. But I wanted it to really drop, lower in tone. So this is what I ended up getting. I'm going to solo what I call the drop kick. And notice there's no audio there. Hopefully you guys either are on speakers or you can hear it through your headphones, where you notice that really drops, that boom. It hits a lot harder than just a simple kick sound. The way I did that, and that's what I'm going to show you guys the trick, you'll notice this drop kick right here. I have an oscillator. All I did was I used the test oscillator, and let me go ahead and get rid of the gate. So I'm going to bypass the gate, and you get to hear, oops, wrong one. You get to hear that tone. So right now there's 54 hertz. So you can see how I could change it around. 54 hertz worked the best with that kick sound. Now, if I don't gate it, turn on the gate. If I don't gate it, that tone, that sine wave, keeps playing. So what I'm showing you here is, well, a gate could be used differently. I can actually do what they call side chaining the gate, and that's exactly what I did. I used that kick track, the one that we heard here, the simple kicks, to open. As you guys can see, it's opening every single time the kick hits. That's because I used the side chain. I told it to listen to the kick sound. Right? Oh, sub kick. So every single time this kick plays, the gate will trigger open this oscillator. And then I added, remember how we can use this as almost creating an envelope? So now I get the combo. If I just solo that one, so now we're only getting the tone. You can hear, here I'll even shorten the
I'm
release.
not hearing anything, Professor.
You're not? It might be because of the headphones you have on.
No, I don't have any headphones.
You don't have it?
I've been hearing everything just,
Okay.
normal, but I'm not hearing anything
Here.
now.
I'm going to bring it up in pitch just so it makes sure your speakers can play it. Do you hear that tone?
No. Did I go out and come back in, or?
How about the rest of you? Are you guys hearing that tone? Opening, doom, doom, doom. Okay, Joshua hears it. Antonio hears it. All right. I'm not
I
sure.
see the signals, but I don't hear anything.
I'm not sure, Deborah. Is it low for people? Should I bring up the level feeding you guys? Yes? No? All right. I'm gonna turn up the level a little bit. See if that helps you guys. All right. Let's go. Come back over here. Do you hear it now?
No. I don't know what's going on.
All right. Maybe you can watch it in the video, which I'll post. You can go towards the end of the video, and then you'll get hear this better.
Okay.
All right. I apologize about that. Be nice to be able to do it live for you right now, but I guess you're gonna have to go. So I'm gonna bring it back down in pitch a little bit. Maybe I won't go as far as before. But what's happening is that gate is being opened up, like I said, by the sub kick sound. So we can actually use gates not triggered by where the audio is feeding through the gate, but externally. So what happens is the gate now gets triggered by whatever sound we want. I can make it my voice if I wanted it to, where it would only open up when my voice is playing, and music would come through. For instance, whenever I speak, or reduce, the music whenever I speak. All kinds of different things you can do. Well, right now, combining both those sounds, you guys can see, and if I wanted it to, be shorter, just change the release time. If I want it to last even longer, you can see those drops are really boom, taking a long time to physically, decay. So I can make a song have more of a, bassy feel or dance version. I'm kind of duplicating what they call the 808 type sound, the 808 kick sound. Especially when I go down here to 54. It really rings nicely. So, real simple thing you could do. All I've done is I've taken the original sound and added some nice low end tone to it that doesn't exist from the original kick sound. And because it gets triggered immediately as soon as those other kicks trigger, it sounds like it's part of the sound. We're blending these two sounds together to create a whole new sound, and I've done this tons of times in different songs to really, make an emphasis on the song where in the club it really hits hard. Feel the power. Yes. 808 Mafia, definitely. All right. So I could even do this with high-end frequency stuff. Here, the hi-hat. I'll go ahead and take this kick out. So, I'm gonna come back over here. Yes, it's looped. All right. So the hi-hat, as you guys can see, sounds okay. But let's say I want to really add that hi-hat. I can actually add white noise to it to give it kind of, again, that analog 808 sound. This time, that same oscillator, I put it to white noise. And then I did a little EQing. So let's solo just that sound. This is the white noise sound. You'll notice if I bring up the gate, same thing. I used a different side chain. In other words, I used the hi-hat to physically open and close this gate, so that way we get that white noise to come through. If I mute it, watch what happens. You guys have that same sound that you guys remember from the immersive part 1, which was the white noise. If I want to make it shorter, all I need to do is change the release. I'll make it longer. Increase the release. But you can see how I could actually add to the original hi-hat sound. So now, let's say that kick in that. Start adding all the other instruments. You hear some delays there. So you're seeing simple things can really emphasize on a song. And it's using the same skills that you guys already know. You're using gates to audibly open and close and making them envelope to create a whole new sound. And it's just through side chaining. This could be done, with any type of sound if you want to add something to it. Now, the next thing, a next kind of cool trick that I did, let's solo these vocals. And I'm going to use the other window to really show this, because then I can show where we're at. There we go. Here's all the vocals. Let me bring them down a little bit. So you're looking at all the vocal tracks. Let's see if we could extend this so you could read it. There we go. So we have the lead vocal, the Vox harmony, the other Vox harmony, the background vocal. That's what you had. Notice here I put fake female Vox harmony. All I did was I copied this Vox harmony, put it onto 2 more tracks. And in that, I actually, there we are. I actually changed the pitch of the vocal to make it sound kind of like females. So when we come to the spot, let's see, right around here, you can hear, I'm going to mute the lead vocal so you can just hear the background singers singing and so forth.
Most high in every day.
I'll even mute the ad-lib thing.
In every day.
As you can hear it, it sounds like a female is in there. It sounds like we've got 2 females singing in there. Yet, if you guys remember, there was no females singing in that song. So all I did was copy it, change it, and if I solo that, this is where it really shows how bad it really sounds. But it's because of the fact that it's all blended, it gives us that illusion. Here's playing just that fake female.
In every day.
Oops. Let's play the other one. If I listen to it soloed like that and I hear it, I'm like, ugh, that sounds horrible. But blend them together along with the other harmonies, and we have quite another illusion.
In every day.
You could swear there's female singers in there. It's all about, and you got to, you've learned a little bit about this, the psychoacoustics, when you read that article that we pointed out to you, and you're able to, mess with our mind, basically, just like we did with the fire, with the how to record fire when you're not even have a real fire in front of you, and you're able to convince these listeners of, hey, this is a fire sound, or hey, this is a chorus with female singers also singing in it. You could really trick people just understanding how to use your tools. Now I've got a question about automation. And why does it say read on green? Okay. These guys that I have that show green where it's red, or where it says read, is because I do have automation happening there. How do we do automation? Well, let me show you. I'll show you that as well. If I come over here and turn on right here this automation button, you guys can see if you hover over it. Come on. Why is it not saying it? There it is. Show hide automation. So as you can see, I did some vocal level changes in the mix. I felt like right at this point, these needed to be at this blend versus over here, slightly different blends. Automation, all you need to do is click there, click on a track, tell it what you want to automate, and that's right here. Like for instance, right now it says main volume. That's what's automated. But I can also go in and automate any parameter from the compressor, since I have a compressor on that channel. Any parameter from the EQ, since I have an EQ on that one. Anything to do with the main channel strip, in other words, volume, pan, the solo, the mute button, also the sends. So all those, like for instance here, feeding the reverb, I can actually automate the send. I can bypass stuff. I could, insert, bypass anything literally, or even mute the reverb. Where this becomes useful is, let's see if I can find where that vocal gets delayed. Here it is, right there. You'll notice this automation is automating the send for the tape delay. So let's solo that track. Unsolo the other tracks real quick, and I'll show you what's happening. So right now, my send is at 0 when it's playing like around here. Here it gets turned up.
Give thanks and praises, people. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Every day. Every day. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Wanna give. Gotta give.
So you can see how I could make it literally send. The automation will send the level only on certain words. I get to choose which words. That feeds the delay, and you hear those delayed. Because I have that automated, that's why this turns green, telling you that the automation mode is in read, and it's playing back that automation. If I come over here and change it to touch, then it records any movements I actually have while the song is playing. Latch, I can record, or I could even write new automation information. I quite often, I don't even have a controller half the time. I just sit here and draw it in, because I can make it exact instead of having to sit there and move it. Okay, thanks. Or is this extra? This is actually extra material, Juan. It's not something that's required of us. I'm more than happy to show it to you, because heck, if you want to use it with the radio play, why not? You could have some fun with it. So it's not anything we're asking of you, but I don't mind showing you guys extra stuff whatsoever. Great. Hopefully, I'm looking forward actually to hear everybody's radio play. Guys, have fun with it. Use the automation as much as you want. Just follow those guidelines, and you'll get a great grade with it. All right. Any other questions? Well, I still have things, and let me see. I've shown you how to do fake vocals. I've shown you how to use gates to create new sounds. What else did I do here? That's it on this track. Can you play that mix? Okay, sure. Let's go back to the top.
There's no place
Try that again.
There's no place in the midst of His majesty. Feel the power in my soul. This power worth much more than gold. And I let that take control. Let the love unfold. Let the love unfold. Yeah, I'm gonna give thanks and praises people most high. Yes, I do. Every day.
Yes, I know some of you guys have not had certain things graded. No worries. I know we're all still going through some of the grading process. So if you haven't gotten a grade for mixed 3, you'll probably end up within the day or two. I know I had to do some extra lecturing on campus this Monday, talking about acoustics. All right. Any other questions as far as any of the tools and stuff that you guys might run into or want to use? The next thing also, heck, I just talked about acoustics. If you guys want to know more about, possibly your setups in your rooms and things you need to think about, this is the last time you guys have me live like this, so I encourage you guys, ask questions. Doesn't even have to be about the material. I've gone over everything that you guys need to know for this week's materials. You guys are all done. This is the last week, so ask away. Can you have my phone number? Well, just call Full Sail. Actually, that's my phone number, and ask for me, and I'll gladly talk to you.
Hey, Teach, can I get this directly sent to me? I'm running a little late today.
What's that? The whole recorded session?
Yes, please.
I still have to edit it after we finish here, and then I upload it. I could send you the link as soon as that happens. It's usually within an hour after this, an hour and a half, that I get it uploaded for you guys.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
You'll be able to see it immediately. I always go through all the different sections and add it. It'll be in your archives for you. All right, let me see. I see some questions. Any tips on to avoid in the radio play other than the presets on and clipping? No, Juan. Basically, we just follow the rules of the radio play assignment, which is, again, 2 vocal tracks. We want to use EQing, your compression. You want to have, effects on those, possibly those vocals. Then the same thing with the sound effects. Again, EQing, compression, gating if you need it, and also feed them into some of the time-based effects stuff. So pretty much just follow those rules and you'll be fine. Okay, I see Daryl's asking about best way is soundproofing without building another room with it. Yes, that's actually one of the best ways is to build a room within a room. But soundproofing is probably the hardest thing to do. One thing to think about is if you're building or fixing up an existing room, sound travels anywhere air does, because sound needs a medium to travel through. So if you were to seal up simple things like the baseboards, remove the baseboards from that room, use caulk everywhere underneath those baseboards, and then replace those baseboards, so that way what you're doing is you're stopping airflow from happening underneath the drywall and so forth. The other thing is weather stripping on your door. You could use weather stripping, that'll help. We think of it normally as, hey, it's how to stop the cold from coming into that room, but it also stops air, hence why it stops cold. So that, by you doing weather stripping, you also help with soundproofing. Weather stripping underneath the door too. All these things are soundproofing, helping with soundproofing. The one other aspect I want to make sure you guys understand is soundproofing is different than sound treatment in your room. So soundproofing is to stop sound from within what you're doing from getting out, and vice versa. Those external sounds, let's say cars or whatever, from the outside getting into your room. Hence, like I was saying here, somebody was doing something next door earlier. I was getting all this external noise, and it's just because I have a window right here, and there's no soundproofing on that. I didn't bother doing any soundproofing with that window. If I wanted to help with that window, for instance, I would actually go and possibly go get a piece of Lexan glass, that the plastic stuff that they use for windows and so forth. You could buy that at Home Depot or whatever. Build a little border on the inside of this window and put that glass or that fake glass there. So now we have 2 layers. We have the physical outside glass, some air, and then another clear plastic. So that way sound has to first go through the glass, and what it does is it starts vibrating it and it transmits it on the other side, but then it has to go through another air medium, which is sealed up, and it has to hit that next thing. So we're reducing the amount of external noise coming into that room. Stuff that people don't think about also is even your electrical outlets. You could caulk around the electrical outlets, stopping from air from being able to get through, because those electrical outlets, if you remove the plastic part, quite often you'll see a gap between the physical metal of the electrical outlet and the wall, so air could travel there. And it's very simple. Air gets in and out through there. Seal that up, even the little holes on the back of the electrical outlet, just using a little bit of caulk, and you're able to stop, again, sound from traveling. This will reduce the amount of sound, external noise that comes into your room that you're actually using. Now, I see somebody saying empty egg crate cartons work and it's cheap. The egg carton thing actually somewhat works. Unfortunately, they're horrible for very high frequencies, and they don't do anything at low frequencies. You're better off... hold on. Let me shut off that mic. Alright, you're better off not going with the egg crate carton stuff. The foam padding that you can get for beds that almost look like the egg crate stuff, that would actually be a little better, because it has what they it converts the acoustic energy over to heat energy. You start moving the cells within that foam. It's closer to actual acoustic foam that you could buy. Now that helps with the mids and the high frequency. The main problem that you could have within a room is something called standing waves, and there's where you have to do something called you build bass traps to help with that standing wave. The standing waves are a major problem with any kind of room. Let me see if I've got a... Yes, I do. Hold on. I'm going to show you guys part of that lecture that I just gave. This will help. Whoa. Perfect. Okay. Alright, why am I not changing? I miss. Holy cow. Hold on. That was weird. Alright, let me just show it to you here. For whatever reason, it's not... GoToMeeting is not liking this. So, if you have a room, let's say a bedroom, the best placement, you want to do something called equilateral triangle for placement of your speakers. Mm-hmm. You actually have... Let's come over here. You'll notice this is a waveform. Basically, if you measure from this wall to this wall, you get a certain amount of distance that if the waveform length is exactly the same, you get where it bounces back and forth, creating what they call standing waves. Like this waveform's going here, the large one, back and forth. It bounces here, it's going to come back the same on the opposite side, and there'll be spots like in the middle of the room. It would be horrible because you're going to get this weird boost. And then at the quarter distance of the room, you're also going to get a really weird spot because you're going to get cancellation. So ultimately, the safest spot to be is at 38% of the total length of the room. So that's where your listening spot, and then you create your equilateral triangle. You notice that right here would be the tip of the triangle. You don't want to be there only because of the fact that, hey, your ears are on your side of your head, not on the front of your forehead. So we want to actually have where the equilateral triangle, basically, you see the tweeter would be hitting the person right near the ears. And let me point it out here. You guys could see, here's that 38%. Tweeter basically hitting you right where your ears are. So it's, if you're looking into your speakers, you would actually see the tweeter. This gives you, because high frequency is very directional, we want to be aimed right at it. Low frequencies are very omnidirectional, so they get even produced by the sides of the cabinet of the speaker. So everything kind of radiates out from it. But high frequencies, very directional. What if we are in a bedroom? That's exactly what this is. I basically used an apartment bedroom, looked up some of the apartments nearby, and grabbed this. You notice this is an 11. This is saying basically it should be about an 11 by bedroom, and I used the closet as being the back wall because, let me come over here to show you. For soundproofing, we want to use something that it absorbs, and we want absorption happening on each side of us, our ears. So for instance, if this was a window, I'd either cover up the window or use the Lexon idea to reduce it, and then I'd even cover it up again with some sort of absorption. It could be anything as, you know, easy as getting out some really thick drapes, hanging them each side of you, or creating specialized baffles that are absorbent for frequencies, high frequencies especially, and low frequencies. I'm sorry, mids and highs mainly. The low frequency thing, we're going to have create what they call bass traps. Here's some in the corners. The corners are probably the worst problem for bass. They end up amplifying and giving you those standing waves. Notice on the back of the closet I have soundproofing also, or I should say acoustic attenuators. In other words, they absorb. I use the closet because, heck, if you have clothing in there, just open up the doors. This guy filled with clothing, it absorbs quite a bit. You could use, I see somebody saying sound blankets. Yes, thick quilts. I've told some students, hey, if you can't afford, or you're in an apartment and you can't really change stuff in the room, why not use some mic stands and put up some thick quilts just hanging over, draped over the mic stands on each side. I see somebody asking which foam is better, the eggshell type or the straight ridges. If you get the acoustic one, you'll notice it's in those like wedges. If you just go out and buying some foam, like you get at Walmart, they have that bed one that looks like eggshell. Either one basically is about the same. The acoustic one that you buy that are professionally made, those are actually fire proof, so they fit code a little bit better if you're doing a commercial spot. But equal, about the same. The thickness will make also, if you make it thicker foam, the thicker the better, because then you capture better with the lower, the more mids, lower frequencies. It's still, with the bass, unfortunately, it just doesn't help out. You need bass traps, and there's multiple ways of building bass traps. I'd recommend jumping onto YouTube and seeing some of the bass traps, how to build a bass trap. But this general placing yourself like this, you can see here's the sound absorbers, sound absorber on the back. Here's the corners, so the bass traps. You will have a place that, let me go back to the other picture. Let's use this one. See, what's happening is as the speakers are giving you direct sound, we also get reflective sound. So if this was a hard surface, sound bouncing off of this coming back to your ears. And because the direct sound is first, the reflected sound or first reflection is secondary, and it comes a little bit in time, you get a slight cancellation of frequencies. And let's see if I could show you that really quick. I guess I could close this now. I don't know if this would be the... I know it does it great in a room. Let's see if I could do it here. Create 2 audio tracks. I'm going to grab 2 oscillators. about that. In fact, let me bring down the stereo while I set this up. All right, over here, same thing. This is actually kind of neat. So both oscillators, I'll bring them to, let's use a lower frequency so it, I know I use 100 when I show this in the classroom. Okay, you guys should be able to hear that. 100 hertz. Both tracks are giving you 100 hertz. Here you are. Let's bring them both to 0. All right. Notice both of them playing 100 hertz. That's my voice jumping on top of that one, but both of them playing exactly 100 hertz. If I mute one of them, notice the output level. Okay, it went down 6 dB. Right? Now, I'm going to mute that stereo out just for a second. I'm going to come over here and add a sample delay just so I can actually move that in time. Let me hit the mute again and watch what happens. Both signals playing, they're perfectly in time. So that would be like both speakers hitting us, or the sound from the speaker hitting us, hitting our ear only directly. Now let's make it reflect off of one other surface. So one of the 100 hertz is going to be changed in time, and this is only 5 milliseconds. Notice when I'm at, trying to tune it right at 5. Right there, 5. Notice my level. It went down. So imagine that happening in your room. Let me go ahead and mute this. And all I need to do is change its time. And you see it'll either go up or down, up and down, and level. I'm going to mute this. Go back to the picture. So as you get the direct sound, you're getting this reflection. So if, let's say, that timing is just perfect for the frequency that you're working with, it could cancel out where you're sitting at, and you're not, even though the speakers are putting out that frequency, you don't hear it. And it's because of that problem of that first reflection. So we want to get rid of reflections. That way we get exactly what's coming through those speakers, and we get to hear everything. Our room will change the way any mix will sound. So we have to, for proper mixing situations, we want to control as much as we can. Can you get a perfect room where nothing will, happen? No standing waves, no first reflections? Not really. Even some of the best recording and studios and mix-down rooms, each one will have slightly little nuances. But what we want to do is shoot for the best that we can. Deborah, sorry that you lost sound again. Yes, definitely could watch the video. This is stuff that's extra, talking about acoustics, right. But hey, definitely it's helpful for you guys' setups. So, is there any other questions about the acoustics? Mario says something about Haas effects. Haas effects definitely is something kind of cool. You could actually control how a room sounds. The Haas effect, there's also something called comb filtering, kind of what I was just showing you. So that was at 100 hertz, but if I changed it to 90 hertz, it would affect it. It would be a different amount of time. So we get this almost comb filtering out of certain frequencies, and that gives us a whole different feel, the way things sound. So it's really important. Those first reflections for when you're mixing down, you really don't want them hitting your ears. We don't want to make this completely dead, because then we were mixing in an environment where nothing would sound right. It just doesn't sound normal to us. So just a little bit of reverberation, so some reflections, but not where they're affecting our hearing. So hence, you only need really some of the acoustic treatment here, acoustic treatment on this side. You want to make them both even. That way you don't get this weird stereo field situation. You want to have yourself at that 30, where is it? That 38% of the total room length. If you could choose the longer way of the room, face that direction, that's the best way of doing it for setting up your listening / studio or mixdown room. The idea of deadening the room a little bit, you could even do, because there's going to be some stuff that bounces off the ceiling and comes down to you. So you'll notice some places actually have what they call sound clouds that will acoustically treat the high end or mids that bounce off of the ceiling. If you don't have this closet situation, you could also do something called a diffuser, where the diffuser diffuses out the energy and spreads it out evenly versus it just reflecting off of a hard surface. A diffuser is usually made out of, and you could YouTube this as well, they tell you how to make some of these, but you could even use a bookcase. A bookcase, because different size books at all different levels and different angles will end up diffusing the sound. It works quite well. Also, something as simple as, hey, I could put a couch back here. That'll help. The couch will actually help also with bass, because it's controlling how the sound flow is of that room. This nice big plush, couch that you could put back there. Something as simple as like that can help as well. So we talked about hanging the curtains, some nice thick curtains on each side of you. That will help. There's many different things you could do. Just keeping the general concept of this helps out with that standing wave situation. If you can't do bass traps, if you can, great, that'll help too, but it's still, be safe. Use that 38%. It's almost like a magic number where waveforms, you'll never end up at the crest or the, so in other words, the compression or refraction of the sound waves. And that's of the total length. So if you have a closet, remember, count the closet as part of your length. Any other questions? I know that was kind of quick going through that, but it gives you an idea of how to do a simple setup. No questions? I know I have Antonio muted, but let's try that. So no questions from anybody? All right, guys. Well then, I guess if there's no more questions for me, about Pro Tools. Who do I talk about Pro Tools? Actually, you can look up to see who your Pro Tools class will be, and you could actually send that instructor an email. You're more than welcome to contact them ahead of time. You will be using Pro Tools a little later on. So just check I don't know which program you're in, so you'd have to look that up. But in your curriculum, you'll see, and you can find out who's going to be your course director for that class, and you're more than welcome to. I mean, I've had people email me before they took the class just to ask me a few questions, and I know most of the instructors don't mind whatsoever. So just email them. You get your.
Joe, I have a question. Is that available in a PDF?
Is what available in PDF?
The room explanation of putting the lab. Is that what you have right there?
Yes. No, but let's.
Is that a full time or what?
Yeah. Let me go ahead and make one for you. And I'll post it right now, so all of you guys could download it right now.
Oh, excellent.
So let's see. Export to PDF. Alright, I gotta mute that.
So,
Somebody's playing
So
music
any-
in the background. Sorry about that.
So-
Alright.
anyways, I want to thank you for doing a great job with us here, man. I kid you not, man. We've learned a lot. I know I've learned a lot.
Oh, no problem. Let's see.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I want to say thank you. I did learn a lot through this class.
Okay, you guys are welcome. Let me finish up. Let me give you guys this so you'll be able to download it. I don't want to. And I guess for the people who are actually watching or going to be watching the video later on, you could ask your instructor, and I'll make sure that everybody has a copy so they could get it up to you. Select a file. What's it named? CR. Okay. There it is. Alright, you guys should be seeing it real soon. As far as in your download materials. There you go. You guys should be able to see it now. Go ahead and download it. It's
Got it. Thank you.
Not yet.
Alright, that was something I put together for full sale for the acoustics lecture. You'll see it talks, you'll see the notes basically. Talks about acoustics, boundaries, the room modes. That's what I was talking about, that standing bass, how you can get in spots where it cancels out, and in other spots that it's as high as, in certain rooms, in certain situations, you could have as high as 40 dB difference. From
I'm sorry, where did you download it? Right here on the chat, or?
Yeah, I put it right on the chat. So you guys should see it under materials.
Oh, wait.
Not-
Materials, okay.
Sorry, so not in the chat, but it's in the GoToMeeting. You'll see materials. Talks about soundproofing, which is different than acoustic treatment. You'll have all that stuff.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Here's those wedges that somebody was talking about. These are bass traps. Some of the ones that like Oralex sells. And here's what a diffuser looks like. Remember I was saying it's like different sizes, different lengths. So imagine a bookcase looks kind of like this and will work very similarly. Evaluate your room, and then your room treatment has, the drawings I put together showing good placements and good practices as far as what to do. And here, remember the reverb killer box? Here's some examples of some of them being built, and this is the one I was talking about that you could go out and actually buy, but heck, the one that you could build for free works just as well. I even explained a little bit in here as far as RTAs, real-time analyzers. You guys are using one when we were using the EQs. Remember that little graph on the EQ showing you? If I throw a microphone in my room where I'm going to be doing the mixing, I can actually see what my room is putting out. And what I would do is, through the speakers that I have set up, I put pink noise, which you have in your Logic. Then on another channel, put your microphone and feed your microphone with that EQ, just visualizing the microphone's input, and you're able to see how your speakers are working within your room, how much of your room is changing how the response of that room is. So in other words, you ultimately would like to have a flat frequency response for your room, but you're going to have spots that boost and even cut because of those room modes and early reflections. In other words, comb filtering. So that should give you guys quite a bit of, extra materials. Plus, there's a couple links here of RTAs and different things.
Thanks again, Professor.
Sure. No worries. All right, guys. If there's nothing else that you guys can think of, I guess we'll call it an evening. Have fun with the radio play. I'm looking forward to hearing everybody's radio play, and good luck with your future studies also.
Thank you so much again.
And for you as well. I mean, in your endeavors, you know.
Well, thank you.
Can't wait to hear some more albums from you. You know, at least let us know.
All right. Okay, guys. Take care. And good night, everybody.
All right. Good night.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, sir.